Hey guys, and welcome into another CFL picks and predictions show. I'm Terry, and we are ready to break down week 9 of the CFL, and we will, of course, get to that here. But we will start the show off with looking at power rankings again, and I will bring them up here. I will start. I will go first again. There we go. There we go. So for me, last week it's up. The top three don't change. Toronto, BC, Winnipeg all stay the same here. Um, Fourth, I had Ottawa last week. I'm gonna keep them there this week, but it's very close between them and Montreal um, in fifth. But I am going to move Saskatchewan and Calgary down, and I'm going to move Hamilton up after last week. Uh, that's basically not a whole lot of change. Now, when it comes to Montreal and Ottawa, I'm very close to moving Montreal to fourth, but I'm going to leave it there this week, and we'll see what happens after um, this week's games and determine if I need to make changes for next week. But next we will go to TK and we will bring you in. What do you think about your power rankings? This is what they were last week. Are there any changes you want to make this week?
I don't think number 9 is ever going to change this season, so I won't even talk about it. Um, I've got 1, 2, and 3 staying the same, as and 4 as well. Ottawa, I still think is there. Montreal, I've got 5. It's 5 and 6, kind of. It really depends. I think I'm going to play it week by week, as far as maybe flip flopping those two. I've got Sasky as 6. It's really tough between 7 and 8 for me, honestly. Jake Mayer he just can't stop turning the ball over in the first half. But I'm going to leave him and I'm going to leave Calgary in 7th because of Hamilton's quarterback situation. But we'll see how that goes this week. So 7 and 8 are going to stay the same for me.
All right. Ice X is here. Nice to see you, Ice X. And I know it's a CFL show, but I'm hard at work at NHL preview videos, which will be coming out eventually. So hockey is not too far away. Nick, going to you next. What do you think for your power rankings? Any changes you want to make this week?
Yeah, I want to move the Edmonton Elks up to number 1. I made an awful mistake putting them on. Probably Calgary should move down. I think I'll swap Hamilton and Calgary. I think that's the way I'm going to go. Once again, 4 through 7 is a shit show, and I'm still not very high on Saskatchewan and Montreal. Even after the win last week, I still think they're mediocre. The win by Montreal was not convincing to me at all. They barely squeaked out a win there. Calgary had multiple chances to win that game, and Montreal won the turnover battle 3-0 and barely came out with the win there. So I'm still not sold on Montreal. But I'm going. I think that's probably what I'll stick with. Is that right there?
All right. We will head in over here to the odds, and we will take a look at the first game here, which is BC and Winnipeg. If this will work, don't know why the odds. Oh, there we go. Sorry, my bad. So BC and Winnipeg. BC anywhere from plus 154 to plus 215. Winnipeg minus 217 and minus 240. Or sorry, minus 217 and minus 275. 5.5s and 6s now. 44.5s and 45s when it comes to the total in this one. And I will we'll switch it up, and I'll let Nick go first on this one. BC Lions, Winnipeg Blue Bombers. What do you think here?
Yeah, this is a fun one. I had this one circled last week as a game I was very interested in. Winnipeg's coming in off of the bye. BC is coming in off of a nice shutout win against the Edmonton Elks. Needless to say, this is a slight step up in competition for the BC Lions this week. And Winnipeg off of a bye guys me very interested in the Blue Bombers here this week. I don't want to lay the 5.5 though. When I look at these two teams, these are the number 1 and number 3 ranked defenses when it comes to points allowed this season. And when we look at the defensively against the pass, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are 3rd, and offensively it matches up for a pretty good clash with the second best passing offense with BC. I think this is a slow defensive game. I think this is a playoff style football game between these two teams. I've already moved on 3 different plays in this game. I see this as a low scoring game like we've seen a lot of so far this season. I think this game is something along the lines of 20-17, 17-14, 21-13, something along those lines. I see a low scoring football game here. I've got the first half under 22.5, the full game under 45. And I do like Winnipeg, but I see a very low variance game here. With it being a low-scoring game, I'm generally not wanting to lay 5.5 points or more than a field goal with a game that I'm anticipating be a lower-scoring game. So I went with the BC Lions team total under 20.5 rather than taking the Blue Bombers minus 5.5. I think the Bombers win this game, and this is a big revenge spot from earlier in the season where BC handed Winnipeg one of their 2 losses, their first loss of the year, a 30-6 beatdown. And I see this as a nice little revenge spot. Winnipeg had more than a week to sit on this, get ready for this BC Lions team. I think they'll be prepared for them here. It's Winnipeg or nothing for me if I'm betting the side. I'm taking BC team total under, and I got the first half full game under as well. I think this is a low-scoring football game, and I think Winnipeg's defense shows up here.
All right. TK, we'll go to you next. What do you think here, Lions and Blue Bombers?
Yeah, Winnipeg off a bye is very interesting. I know I mentioned last week that I've had some concerns as far as the offensive line protecting Caleros, but I think they know that, and I feel like they have figured out some way to address that throughout the bye. Whether that's going to be more short, quick passes to Dembski, swing passes to Oliveira. I think that they're going to find some ways to get the ball out of his hands quickly because I said it before, this BC defense is the best defense in the league, in my opinion. And they know that, and I think they're going to be prepared for it. A little concerning to me as far as with BC of blowing out Edmonton. And they really didn't have to try hard to do that. I think that looking at the last game, the last time these two played, I think it was 30-6 earlier in the season, and I see it kind of as a little bit of a revenge deal for Winnipeg here. No disrespect to Dane Evans, I think he is a good quality backup quarterback, but he's no Vernon Adams, in my opinion. So I'm going to take Winnipeg. I got it at 5.5 minus 120. I do think that the BC defense and Winnipeg at home with defense keeps this thing under. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. So I'm also on the under 45 here for this one.
All right. So we're all kind of in different spots here in this game. For me, how I look at it, BC 6-1 now in the season. They just shut out Edmonton 27-0. And yes, they didn't have to, I guess, put in too much effort. I think the defense really focused at the end of the game, keeping them off the board. I think that's what they were focused on, is keeping Edmonton at a 0. And that's basically, that was their focus in that game. I was on Winnipeg when these two teams faced each other earlier on in the season, because Winnipeg has had a dominant history against the BC Lions. But what we saw in that game, and I think what we've seen so far this season, is this Winnipeg team is just they've taken one step down. So they're not horrible. Um, they're not in contention with the other bottom teams. But I really feel like they've taken a step down this week. Coming off their bye week, they played Edmonton the week before that, and BC averaging 26 points per game, Winnipeg 27.14, but BC averaging 13.43 points per game, Winnipeg 21. So that's a touchdown less the BC is averaging per game, and I have to take BC plus the points. I think this game is a field goal type of game. For the second week in a row, line movement has not went my way. As I did take BC, I got plus 4.5, but now it is plus 6. So if this continues to move and gets to that 7.5 range, I'll be rebetting and doubling up on the BC Lions come game time. But I do like them here plus the points. I think we get a close game. When it comes to the total, you guys like the under. I learned last week. Everybody's good at something when it comes to sports betting. Some people can do it all. Some people just are really good at player props. For me, I'm a sides better. I'm not a totals better. When I try to bet totals, it just doesn't work out. So I'm sticking to sides. I'm sticking to what I'm good at. So staying away from the total. I will be betting team totals, but I wish you guys luck with the under. That is where I would go in this one. Just Winnipeg's defense kind of scares me a little bit. But we will head in here to the second game, which is the Toronto Argonauts heading over to Calgary here in this one. Toronto minus 395 to minus 500 favorites, -8, -8.5 on the spread. Calgary plus 250 to plus 350. Home underdogs 50.5 and 51s when it comes to the total in this one. And I'll go first here in this game. I was leaning with Calgary. I said it on last week's show. I was leaning with Calgary against Winnipeg, or against Montreal. I was hoping that number would go to plus 3.5, and then I was going to take it. I'm glad it didn't, and I'm glad I stayed off that game because Montreal obviously won and covered the spread. This Calgary Stampeders team, a team that I have been looking to bet against this season, and now they return home here. A building that they have struggled in. I guess I shouldn't say building, a home field that they've struggled in. They've lost all 3 games this season at home, 3-7 in their last 10 home games. And they have the Toronto Argonauts, who are 6-0. No Grey Cup hangover for this Argonauts team coming into this season. They've won 5 of their 6 games by at least 12 points. The only game that was less than 12 points was a 35-27 win against Montreal. And Toronto scored at least 31 points in all 6 games this year. Their team total is at 30.5. So surprisingly, it's kind of high there. And it's just at the right number. So I'm kind of waiting for it to be released at more books before I jump on it. But I will be taking Toronto team total over 30.5. And I am on the Argonauts -8 here. Only thing that scares me is Calgary has absolutely dominated Toronto for a long time now. 14-2 in the last 16 meetings between the teams. However, this Calgary Stampeders team is the worst team they've been in for years, and this Argonauts team is the best team they've been in for years. So I'm going to ignore the past history stats with this Argonauts team. They have struggled against Calgary, but I think they get right here in this one. Calgary has just really struggled at home this year, which has continued from last year as well. TK will go to you second in this time. Toronto Argonauts, Calgary Stampeders. What do you think here?
Yeah, I agree with you. You mentioned it. This Calgary team, it just is not the same. In my opinion, they've got a great receiving core. Their secondary is rough, and I've said it and tried to defend Jake Mayer several times throughout this season, and I just can't do it anymore. He has a serious habit of turning the ball over in the first half. And it kind of trickled over the last game where he turned the ball over in the first half. And I counted on 3 different occasions in the second half where he could have ran for a first down and just threw the ball in a general direction of a receiver. And the receivers even looked like they had no idea what he was doing. Particularly that last play at the end of the game where he had a chance to run for at least about 7 or 8 yards when it was 3rd and 3. And he basically throws it out the back of the end zone. So his decision-making skills to me are questionable, and I can't trust him. And you've got Toronto that's coming in that has basically blown the doors off of every team that they've played. And you've got a struggling quarterback, and you've got Dave Dickinson that's calling out his players and question. I don't want anything to do with Calgary right now at this point until they get it figured out. And I think I got to take Toronto. I got them at -8 at 120. And I'm going to take them on the first half as well. I got it at 5.5, -130. So I'm going to stick with that. Toronto is 6-0 against the spread. And until they don't cover, I'm going to continue to take them. In addition to that, Calgary is 0-3 straight up at home, and 0-3 against the spread at home. So I'm just going to continue riding that wave here on this one. Additionally, the Argos defense, second best in the league, in my opinion. Jake Mayer I don't know what he's doing. So I'm going to go with the under. It's at 51. I think that's kind of high, unless the Argos just go absolutely crazy and score a ton of touchdowns. I could see it going over, but I just really don't see anything offensively that Calgary can do to contribute to an over. Looking at them last week against Montreal, it was nothing but field goals. They never got into the end zone. So I definitely don't think they're going to get into the end zone against Toronto. So I'm going to take the under on it.
All right. Yeah, I didn't mention in my breakdown, Meyer leads the league in interceptions thrown, 11 so far this year. So, of course, Bo Levi Mitchell's not too far behind him, even though he's only played 2 games. But obviously now he's injured. Isaac says Kraken money line. Daryl says opinions on Blue Bombers first half spread and under. Argos spread with a blowout. Alouettes, and then you like things in all 4 games. So what we'll do is we'll jump into your comment after we finish Nick's breakdown. But I did want to go through the comments. Calgary Flames money line. No, Isaacs, no. Plus 330 with Stampeders money line. Hard face. Isaacs, you don't. I know you're very new to Canadian football. If you even know it at all, don't bet Calgary. Trust me. Don't do it. Nick, tell Isaacs why he should not bet the Calgary Stampeders.
Yeah. First off, I do want to say I do like the Jets money line. I have bet the Jets money line. It follows a trend that I've been doing for preseason football. If a team opens up at a dog and moves to a favorite, just bet them. Plain and simple. That's the way to approach the preseason. But for this one here, this is one of those where, and I was looking back at it. I started week 4 with this Argos team. I didn't bet them. Actually, I bet against them the first 2 weeks. I was on Hamilton. I was on Edmonton the first 2 weeks, first 2 games against the Argos. Since then, I was on them as a dog against BC. I laid the points with them against Montreal. I laid the points with them against Hamilton. I laid the points again against Saskatchewan with them. I've cashed 4 straight weeks with them. I've been on the team total over every single game for them since then. I've cashed all those, or since they've given me team total overs on my book. And this is what I say. It feels like every week at this point with these shows. It's death, taxes, and the Argos putting up 30+ points. And if there's a prop on your book, it's not on my book, but if there's a prop for the highest scoring game of the week, this is it right here. Because when you look at these offenses, these are the number 1 and number 4 offenses in the CFL. Toronto is averaging 36.2 points per game, and Calgary is averaging 25.3. So both these teams are putting up points on the board. And when it comes to it, I think Jake Mary's going to be able to throw the ball a little bit, and there's a good chance it can go 6 points the other way as well. I would look, if there's the props available on this one, a defensive touchdown for the Toronto Argonauts. I think that's definitely a decent look. You can probably find great plus money. Unfortunately, my books do not offer that. The Calgary Stampeders are 0-3 straight up and 0-3 against the spread at home. And but they were favorites in all 3 of those games. They weren't 9-point dogs in all 3 of those games. They were favorites. I did lay the points with Toronto Argonauts. I'm not going to jump in front of the Argos here. I've been on them every single week since the BC game. I'm going to continue riding with them here. I got their -8, and then I got their team total over 30.5. Shout out to the sports books, finally putting Toronto's team total in the 30s. It's about time. I think this is the first time they've done that. I'm also on the over 51 here in this spot. I do think Calgary's not going to go out with a whimper. And yeah, they kicked a lot of field goals last game, my bad. I think that some of those red zone trips or some of those drives are going to end in 7 rather than 3 this week for Calgary. I don't see their offense continuing to stall out for field goals every single time. So I do think they're going to help contribute. Calgary 2-1 to the over at home, and Toronto 2-1 to the over on the road as well. I see this is the highest scoring game of the week. I've got Toronto -8, their team total over 30.5, and I took a little bit of first half full game over as well.
All right. What is the record in CFL when Nick and Terry agree on something? I obviously haven't been keeping track. Early on in the season when we disagreed, it was heavily on my favor. And now I don't really know. Haven't really been keeping track. So.
It's still heavily in your favor. It feels like every single. I think I've gotten it twice against you. I think I've beaten you twice.
Hamilton against Ottawa, and we'll touch into the Ottawa game here shortly.
And then Edmonton laying the points against Saskatchewan a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So Daryl, we'll get to each one of your one of these games. So we'll get to each one of those games separately. I'm not betting the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. I'm had a very, very good NFL season last year. So going to be very selective with preseason before I get to anything there. Nick, you said you like the Jets, right?
Yes, I'm on the Jets. They opened up at a 2.5-point dog. They're a 1-point favorite now. I laid the -123 with them. And one thing I will say about NFL preseason, it's a lot better betting the preseason than the regular season, money-wise. It's a lot more profitable betting the preseason than the regular season when it comes to the NFL.
I saw on Picks and Parlay on the site that you bet a lot of preseason football and you did well last year. So
yes,
best of luck. TK, are you touching the Jets game and Hall of Fame game?
We lose them? Uh-oh.
I cut out there for a second.
There we go.
Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Are you taking
I missed
anything?
what you said there. I cut out.
Oh, no worries. Are you taking anything in the Hall of Fame game for football, NFL?
I don't know yet. I haven't looked at it yet. I might do something small on it, but as of right now, I'm not on it.
Okay. Yeah, Daryl, if you want to find TK posts all his plays on his Twitter, so you can find that link is in the description below, so you can find that there. We will move on to the next game, Montreal Alouettes and the Hamilton Tiger Cats here, and I will bring up the odds. We'll go over this one. So right now, Montreal anywhere from -140 to -173. Hamilton +105 to +133 on the money line. The spread, Montreal -2.5 to -3. Total 45s and 45. 2.5s here in this game. And this one's a tough one. So for me in this CFL season, Montreal is the one team where I've kind of passed a lot of their games, and it's not anything against them. It's just that I just don't have a good feeling about Montreal games. They seem so far to, if they play someone that's not Winnipeg, BC, or Toronto. So if they play an opponent that's equal or worse to them, they get the job done. They have had success against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They won the last 3 meetings between the teams. But I just don't know if I want to lay -2.5 with Montreal. The Tiger Cats showed me something last week, of course. Hamilton dominates Ottawa, and that is a past history stats that has continued this year from previous years. In this one, Montreal has the edge, I think, but no play for me at this moment. Nick, we'll go to you second this time. Alouettes, Tiger Cats, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, this is one that was kind of tricky. Hamilton actually opened up as a favorite in this game. On Pinnacle, they opened up at a -1 favorite. Now they're a +3 dog. The question is, I think I know why this line has moved the way it has, though, because Bo Levi Mitchell got hurt again in that last game on that QB sneak, because for whatever reason they thought it was a good idea to put him out there on a QB sneak his first game back, and he gets hurt again. It's going to be Powell. I don't know if he's worth 4 points. I don't think I think maybe a 4-point move. If this gets up to 3.5, I'm definitely interested in Hamilton in this game. I think Hamilton at this price is not a bad look. I originally had Hamilton written down. This is a tricky one. I originally leaned under or over. Now I'm kind of leaning under, because when we look at these two teams, it's one thing that we have a bad defense, actually the worst defense in the CFL, with the Hamilton Tiger Cats giving up 28.1 points per game, which is 8th. Surprisingly, it's not Edmonton the worst. And on the flip side, though, offensively, both these teams are not very good. 6th and 7th, 21.2 and 20.9 points per game offensively. So it's one thing to be able to play a bad defense. It's another thing to take advantage of it. I don't know if Montreal takes advantage of this defense here of Hamilton. I think Hamilton can have a good game defensively, and I think Powell, I don't know how well he's going to be able to move the ball. Hamilton Tiger Cats, they're last rushing the ball this year, and they're only 6th passing the ball. So offensively, they've not been very good. So I'm kind of looking maybe towards an under in this game. On the side mark, I mean, at this point, it'd probably be a lean towards Ticats in this spot. Maybe if you're not interested in having the Ticats try to win the game, if you think this is just going to be another low-scoring game, I kind of see that here. Maybe first half under 21.5, full game under 45, and maybe a lean towards, I kind of like that 23.5 under for Montreal in this game. I'm leaning towards the under in this game. The more and more I look at it, the line's gone from, I believe, a 46 to a 45. So the line's moving in that direction as well. I have not bet anything for these last 2 games yet, but I'm leaning heavily towards Hamilton and the under for this one.
After listening to your breakdown and looking at the odds, I like Hamilton team total under, I think. Just because I think Montreal, like you said, or Montreal's defense
strong.
But I think Powell having to throw the ball 23.5. But the under is -152. So I'd have to find 22.5 or something.
I was going to say, on my book, I'm seeing 21.5 at -110 on both sides. I like the under 23.5 for Montreal a little bit. 23.5 was Montreal for me at -110. That's kind of what I was looking at there.
All right. TK, Alouettes, Tiger Cats. What do you think in this one?
Yeah, this is one that had me kind of scratching my head for a little while. I just looking at last game with Montreal, they had plenty of opportunities to take advantage from the turnovers that Jake Mayer created, and they just didn't do it. And that's kind of concerning to me that they didn't capitalize on it. Now, props to them and Jason Moss for getting William Stanback involved in the running game. I saw that they put a good emphasis on that. of doing that. But there's just something with this team that it still kind of bothers me. There's times where they look decent, there's times where they look good, and there's times where they're not so great. So coming out the bye, I kind of expected them to kind of get it together, and I feel like they still were kind of spinning their wheels and just kind of letting Calgary hang around. Um, to me, when I look back at what Powell did against the Argos in the second half, I mean, he was able to generate a little over 200 yards total yards and 153 yards passing against the Argos, who are a much better defense than Montreal. So he was able to move the ball. He was able to put some points on the board there late in the game in the fourth quarter. Why can't he do it against this Montreal team that wasn't able to capitalize on Jake Mayer's turnovers? I think he can. I think he's capable of doing it. I agree that, the line movement for the quarterback situation for Hamilton is not worth it, especially from what we just saw out of Montreal. So I'm going to go ahead and take a shot on Hamilton. I think they win this game. Somehow, some way, they're playing it at home. I think that helps. You've got some key guys like Simone Lawrence on defense, to get that defense going together. I still am concerned about Montreal being able to protect the quarterback. Fajardo got hit, and I don't know exactly what it is, but he had his arm issue that he was kind of trying to shake out and go through the game. I think that they're going to be able to do something on defense to at least be able to gear up for the stand back runs and make Fajardo sit back there and try to throw it and try to get some pressure on him. So I'm going to go ahead and take Hamilton at the +3. Take him on the money line as well. I think they win this game. But there's both of these defenses aren't that great to me. So I think this game goes over. I'm going to take the over 45 as well. But I think Powell's going to get the win.
All right. And we'll move on to Sunday night's game, the final game of the week. Here, Ottawa Redblacks, anywhere from -115 to -140. Saskatchewan, -117 to +105. Ottawa right now, -1, -1.5 on the spread, 44 and 44.5 when it comes to the total in this one. And for me, I was disappointed. So TK was just talking about how Montreal couldn't capitalize on turnovers. Ottawa, which have been so good previously, the last few games at capitalizing on turnovers, had plenty of chances from Bo Levi Mitchell. But looking at it, Hamilton has absolutely dominated Ottawa. So for whatever reason, that's just not a good matchup for Ottawa. Now they come here to Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan started the season 3-1. They've now lost their last 3 games. I said it when they lost Trevor Harris. That was a huge loss for the team. And they've definitely taken a step backwards with Mason Fine, who just hasn't – he's able to get completions, but he's just not able to get enough he's not able to put points on the board for Saskatchewan so far. Ottawa averaging 21.71 points for, 22.57 against. Saskatchewan only 19.71 points for, 25.43 against. Saskatchewan may have the loudest fans in the CFL. I think we can all agree that they have the loudest fan base and one of the biggest fan bases. If you watched Touchdown Halifax, there was a ton of Saskatchewan fans at that game that traveled to Halifax. The issue, though, is that those loud fans in Saskatchewan are not helping the Rough Riders win games. Or maybe they are helping, but it's not getting the job done. Saskatchewan 1-8 in their last 9 home games. The only game they won, which Nick has brought up in previous shows, was a 12-11 win against Edmonton. Otherwise, they've lost their last 8 other road games or 8 other home games. This team just struggles at home. Ottawa, I think, is going to bounce back big in this spot. I really like Ottawa this week now to bounce back after last week's performance. I took them, I believe, on the money line. And that's basically now you can get them at Bet365 for -115. That's where I go in this game. The Red Blacks. Nick, Red Blacks, Rough Riders. I know you don't really think either of these teams are all that good. What do you think happens in this game?
Yeah, this is probably my least interesting matchup, I think, on the week, personally. When we look at these two teams, Saskatchewan offensively has been bad, and since Mason Fine's taken over, it's been worse. And when we look at what they've done recently, they put up, what was it, 13 points? 13 points against Toronto, and I believe 6 of those were in garbage time. They put up 9 against BC. They put up 31 against Calgary, but Calgary is one of the worst defenses in the league, and multiple of those touchdowns were special teams. So offensively, Saskatchewan's done nothing recently, and they put up 12 points against Edmonton. I knew this Saskatchewan team was fool's gold when they were 3-1, because when they were 3-1, 2 of their wins came against Edmonton by a combined 5 points. The other one was an overtime win against Calgary, which we've learned wasn't a good win because you went to overtime against a team now that's 2-5. And when we look at this Ottawa team, they have taken a step up with Crum at quarterback. We saw that last week was finally that game where it set in. They had a terrible travel situation. They went on a short week from West Coast to East Coast, from Calgary to Hamilton, and it was just not an Ottawa spot last week. I think this could be an Ottawa spot here. I'm looking at Ottawa in the under a little bit in this spot. I see this defense, which has been good, 22.6 points per game. It is 5th, but I mean, feels like that top is bunched up together, that top of the league, because the difference between 2nd and 5th is less than 2 points a game when it comes to defenses between Toronto and Ottawa. And Saskatchewan's averaging less than 20 points a game. I see this as a low-scoring game. I just don't know how we can even look at overs with Saskatchewan right now. The way that they're playing. 44 seems a little low. 21.5 seems way too high for our team total for Saskatchewan. I'm kind of leaning towards a team total under 21.5 here for them. Maybe a full game under, something along those lines. I like a little Ottawa in the under here in this game. I need to figure out how I'm betting it.
All right. Ottawa has a great rush defense. If Saskatchewan is going to have a chance in this game, Mason Fine is going to have to throw the ball, and he's going to have to be successful.
Which, when you look at Saskatchewan offensively, I know most of this was with Trevor Harris, but they're number 1 in the league with passing yards. They're averaging 297 yards a game on offense, passing the ball, and they're 6th rushing the ball. Mainly because also you got to think a lot of their time that they spent throwing the ball was when they were down against Winnipeg, when they were down against BC, when they were down against Toronto. So a lot of their passing yards did come when they were trailing in games. But this is a team where if they can throw the ball, Saskatchewan, then Ottawa may be in trouble, because Ottawa ranks 8th against the pass this year, but they're number 1 against the rush.
All right. TK, Ottawa Red Blacks, Saskatchewan Rough Riders. What do you think in this game?
Yeah, that really was exactly what I was going to say and bring up there. You know, the 8th in defense as far as passing, and honestly, from what I've seen out of Saskatchewan, they have no interest in running the ball. They would rather pass it. So I think that plays very well into it. You ask Mason Fine, hey, go ahead and get in there, and you're going to make 2 starts against BC and then Toronto. Well, let's kind of look at what happened. You know, he put up 300 total yards and 284 passing yards against BC, best defense in the league. And then Toronto, even though they couldn't score, even though they could not score a touchdown, 458 total yards and 402 yards passing. so against two of the best defenses in the league. Now you're asking him to go up at home against Ottawa, who's 8th in the league as far as passing. I mean, I think it sets up perfectly for Saskatchewan to win this game. I think they do win this game. You know, from what I saw last week with Ottawa, of just not really being able to do anything against Hamilton, you know, on the road. And I know it was a bad spot for them. I get that, but just nothing. You know, nothing. The Dustin Crum comeback just didn't happen. You know, so I think that, and I'm always stuck on Saskatchewan at home. I think they're a better team at home than they are on the road. I don't know why. They seem to play better whenever they're at home. I've seen good things out of Mason Fine the past 2 weeks against two of the best teams in the league. They just can't score. Well, I think they're going to be able to do that this week. You know, you got Sean Bain that I think is his favorite target that he likes throwing to. I'm taking Saskatchewan. I'll take them at the +1, and I got them on the money line as well at even money. But with obviously we know the magic that Dustin Crum has. I think their offense is going to get back going. You know, Saskatchewan's defense is still questionable to me, even though they are at home. They're still questionable. So I think that Ottawa's going to score, and I do think that Saskatchewan's going to put up points as well. So I'm taking the over 44 as well on it.
All right. Little bit of disagreement there, but that's good, because if all three of us said the exact same play, it would be a very boring show. So it's good to have some disagreement.
That's great
You're
advice.
watching on
I've never really
Twitter.
heard that one before.
Yeah, when me and Nick are on the same show, there's bound to be disagreement. But if you're watching on Twitter, subscribe to Getting Wild with Terry and Friends. Subscribe to Earl Sports Bets. The show is on both YouTube channels. If you're watching on either one of the YouTube channels, go subscribe to the other one. I will be having a lot of content coming up, starting with NHL season preview shows, NFL show weekly, and then my normal NHL daily show will be back for the regular season. So tune into that on Getting Wild with Terry and Friends. If you want my premium plays, baseball right now, 7-3 in my last 10. I'm number 2 on picks and parlays for the year in 2023, and I'm number 1 in the CFL in 2023 as well. So if you want my premium plays, the link is in the description below. If you want to follow Nick, as I said, his link to his Twitter is in the description below, as well as Earl Sports Bets on YouTube. TK, if you want to follow him, his link is in the description below for his Twitter. He posts all his plays there, so you can follow him there. But that is this week's show. We'll go look here at the comments here. Isaac says Giroux anytime goal. He's ready for hockey. Me too. I've been thinking about hockey all day with my the stuff I'm doing. Yeah, you're joking. You're joking. Ottawa Redblacks are freaking tired, just like the Calgary Stampeders. They both played a total of 9 games, if you include the 2 overtime games each has played so far. That's very possible. That's very possible. And for me, this week, this is a huge game for Ottawa because if they don't get the job done against Saskatchewan, a team that's won 1 of their last 9 home games, if Ottawa loses this game, then they're going to drop in my power rankings, and most likely they're probably a 2-week wonder because Saskatchewan still has a ton of injuries. This is a big game for Ottawa, but it's also a big game for the Rough Riders because that home record is just awful. But that is this week's show. Thanks everyone for watching. Tune in next week for another episode of CFL. It'll be week 10 picks and predictions. But best of luck on your betting this week, guys, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.